everyone, and welcome to Word About Nothing. Today we're going to talk about choosing your reality. We thought there's so much confusion going on and things are up in the air. We thought things will go one way, but they didn't. And it's, in a way, you could say frustrating, but at the same time exciting, because you don't know what will happen. It's not like you have a plan and everything is going according to the plan. So we thought it's really a relevant topic for today's conversation. I'm Katya.
I'm Kim.
And I'm Danielle.
And welcome. So, choosing your reality. Who is choosing what?
Yeah, it is interesting because it seems that people have had very strong ideas of how things were going to work out or what was going to happen next, or they've had a kind of linear plan for the unfolding of what's happening now, generally and also individually. So on many different scales, it seems. And people are going kind of doolally at the moment, in my experience, that I'm coming in contact with, because the reality they've created in their minds isn't happening, or is happening differently to how they'd expected, and they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to cope with it. So it's like a grasping at straws or just utter confusion sometimes, or utter madness in some situations. People just drowning in fear or drowning in constriction.
It's easy to have a story, or sort of believe in a fairy tale, whether it's fairy tale or whether it's true. But once you have in your mind that things should happen this way and they don't, this is when you lose the ground. And I think the whole idea of this whole situation that is happening in the world right now is to be okay with losing your foundation, is to be okay with accepting that things actually may not be as you thought they are. And that shakiness, it's that shaking of that foundation is terrifying. It's something that you may have never experienced in your life. And this is something new. And this letting go, it's something that we learn doing our spiritual practices, is a hard thing to learn. And if you've experienced it and you've never been prepared for it, I can see how hard can it be for people.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And I feel that everything that's happening at the moment, the whole purpose of it is to shake the foundation or even completely break the foundation. So it's creating not even a new foundation, but creating something new out of the completely outdated and the old. So like we kind of touched on last week, people are trying to hold on to things that no longer exist, or things that are no longer a foundation or no longer have any stability, whether real or imagined. Some are drowning and some are really clinging on to the rules or the government legislation, or, people seem to be in the UK now at the moment, because we're in our third lockdown. Some people are really, really going crazy about the rules. Like this woman came up to me in a supermarket the other day, and I've always gone into supermarkets with no mask. I've never put one on. And she came up to me and she said, "Madam," tapped me on the shoulder like she was a policewoman, "Madam, where's your mask?" I said, "I don't wear one." She said, "Why not?" And she looked like the kind of person that you don't really want to get into an argument with, because I would have been there for about 4 days. So I just said, "I'm exempt." She said, "So have you got an exemption card?" I said, "Yes." I just thought, I'm just going to answer yes to everything you ask me, because you're being really difficult. She said, "Did you show the staff?" And I said, "Yes." She went, "Right, okay." And then she didn't have a leg to stand on because she was expecting an argument. And she went, "Right, that's fine then," and walked on. Because she came up to me, she was really, she almost was pulling up her sleeves, ready to have a fight. And I just went, "No," very sweetly, yes. And she was really bitterly disappointed. But people are really clinging on to that, And the funny thing about it was that she wasn't even wearing a mask herself. She was wearing like a knitted scarf, but it was a very holy one, so I could actually see her mouth moving through it. And I thought but you're not even wearing one, so what's your problem? And then people come into the vet clinic as well, and they'll go, "Oh, it's really annoying that people aren't adhering to all these rules. They're just extending COVID and it's just getting more and more serious," and just going off on one, And I find it really strange, because it's like watching them talking. It's like they're talking nonsense, when you sometimes watch people that are lost in some fantasy and they start talking about their fantasy and you're like, what? There's no connection. There's no kind of, yes. I can't even kind of, not even relate in any way, but I don't even know what to say. So I'll just kind of go, right, so do you have an appointment then? Because I don't want to get into that conversation. It's very strange. And with regard to the choosing your reality, I feel that some people are choosing to live in the reality that they've always known, despite an overwhelming amount of evidence that's demonstrating to them that that reality is not true. It no longer exists, or it never existed. But people are choosing to see it, and it's interesting watching people. It's like they're kind of walking around with their heads down energetically, to me, it looks like. And they're just kind of in this little bubble that they're walking around in. And everything within their bubble is still familiar to them, but it's like it's superimposed underneath what is really happening. But it just feels that with regard to what's happening generally at the moment, I think it was one of you touched on earlier, it's about letting go of everything you thought was going to happen, or letting go of everything you thought you believed, or letting go of anything that you you saw as a plan or a narrative, and just being with it, because every moment the reality is happening, or it's changing, or the actual real plan is happening, and like we touched on last week, it's God's plan. So who are we to even question it, or who are we to even think we understand it on the deeper levels or the wider levels?
It does make sense. You mentioned about it last week. That's exactly it. Who are we to decide that this is God's plan, and then we know this plan and everything has to go according to it? It's like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, if it's God's plan, then how do we know it in the first place? And secondly, how do we know that it's going to go according to the plan? My main thing about this whole plan, or there's a different plan, something else, is how come it's only available to certain people? How do they know that these people are patriots? Why, anyone could listen to it. So, and it seems like, I was like, well, I have an insider knowledge, it's going to be this way. And then I'm thinking, well, then everyone is listening to this plan. Then everyone would know about it. How can you know if you're patriot or if you're standing on the other side? You don't. And things, obviously, certain things, maybe that was the plan, and maybe that was true, maybe that was inside information, and things have changed, things have shifted. And the reason they changed is maybe because of that, because everyone now knows about this plan and it's no longer feasible to go with that.
Yeah. And I feel that you're right as well, in that things on the surface are changing so quickly. There's a sense that the plan is, everything's happening according to the plan, but all the surface pieces are changing and shifting so quickly that people that are talking about individual pieces with such authority, and the people that believe these individual pieces wholeheartedly without kind of any fluidity, are getting themselves stuck at certain points, because it feels like now everything has to be so fluid. So you hear something, you go, okay, that feels true right now. And then in 2 minutes time, or 10 minutes time, or a day's time, or a month's time, it may no longer feel true. So you have to let it go as soon as it stops feeling true to you. Whereas people are really holding on to things, and because they're then proclaiming it to be truth, which at that time is, but without the bending or the ability to see that it might change or acknowledge things might be different, they're the ones that are kind of getting stuck now. They're backtracking, or they're holding on to things, or they're posting things on social media saying things like, well, I hope the plan is revealed soon because everyone thinks I'm an idiot, kind of thing. And it's like, well, it's not about looking like an idiot or not looking like an idiot. It's about trusting your inner guidance of knowing what's true, or trusting in the reality of what is actually true to you. It's feeling into truth for yourself every moment, even if it means that you contradict yourself every 5 seconds, because it has to be about following the truth rather than following the concreteness or anything that's just condensed or, compacted. I've done a couple of soul readings for people recently. And, when I do a soul reading, the person's soul speaks to me and the information comes through. But as I've sent them to these people, there's been a sense that neither of them have come back to me, but there's been a sense that there's a disagreement with what I've seen or what I've written, which is fine, because obviously not everyone is going to agree with what I say. But in one of the situations, one of the cases, the person very much wants to hold on to their impression of who they believe that they are. And they were looking for a soul reading as confirmation of that, as opposed to a soul reading as an opening up into seeing something bigger. And that's fine. They do with the soul reading what they wish. But I found it quite interesting just to see that response in them and kind of go, oh, right, okay. Because that, again, kind of feels like not not choosing the reality of what is, it's choosing the reality of what you want to be. And I feel that a lot of people are doing that generally, just really holding on to what they want to happen and trying to enforce that, and then being bitterly disappointed when it doesn't happen.
And sometimes to the point where they have to switch sides, or, not to be on that side because they're disappointed that things didn't go according to plan, or according to certain ideas that they had in their mind.
Yeah. Sorry, Danielle, I keep feeling that you want to say something, but I keep interrupting you. Sorry.
No, I was just thinking, it's so funny. My thoughts are not staying with me today, but I guess that's a part of that, the free flowing movement of the time. Thoughts come and they go. So maybe it's not important right now. So go ahead.
That's good. It's good that, you don't have thoughts, so they'll come.
If it comes back, I'll talk about it. But
yeah, maybe we all don't. We're all just kind of going.
Oh, I had my thought. Where is it? Oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
But it's so nice when that happens, when the thoughts just kind of come in and then disappear because they're not important, and that's part, I guess, of what we're talking about. Not holding on to them, going, oh, this thought, I must express this thought. This thought has to be out in the world, Whereas it's like, well, it's just a thought. It's like a butterfly, it just floated through.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to what you were saying, kind of jokingly, Katya, to catching the thought is, I felt like I've done that for so long in my life is, oh, this thought is so important. I need to keep this, write it down, do something with it. So it is nice. When I have thoughts that just disappear, I'm like, oh, okay. Didn't need that one, I guess.
I'm the same. I was like, what was that? It was so important. I need to remember that. What was that?
It feels nice for me not to do that.
Choosing your reality. I'm also feeling that whenever I'm in a situation where I was expecting something to happen and something didn't happen, I always default back to choosing the light and knowing that light has won no matter what it is, no matter how it unfolds. This is what I'm choosing. Because if we don't choose that, then where are we going to be?
Yeah, I've been feeling that it's been such an interesting week in some ways, because I've definitely been feeling that, just choosing the light. But there's been so much of a sense for me that it's all in God's hands. Everything's absolutely fine, and there's been so much devotion that's been flowing through, and so much love. I've just, every so often I'll just stop and go, I'm so grateful. I'm just so grateful. And just saying, thank you, God, because existence is magnificent, and it's just being able to experience and witness how everything is just such a blessing and a gift, and it's almost like, it's hard to describe it. It's almost like this kind of just falling in love with God, or falling in love with the light. I've really been feeling that overwhelming and just kind of outpouring of my heart this week. It's just been, sometimes tears will even fall. I'll just be so grateful. I'll just be thinking, thank you. I'm so grateful for God and for the light, and just feeling it more and more strongly in my body. And like Danielle, you were saying, just no thoughts, because there's no point in having an opinion about anything, because it's just an opinion. It's not truth. It's not reality. And speaking of choosing reality, just choosing the reality of just letting go of control, letting go of opinion or thought or stories about what's going on, and just fixing my gaze more and more strongly on the light, just because that's all that's real, So choosing the reality of the light, as you were saying, Katya, that's all that we can do. And from that perspective, it's just beautiful, because I'm just kind of feeling more and more transfixed and more at peace, and more just, the tickles of light through the body, all of that. I can just feel that kind of more and more expanding more and more, and just feeling so much joy, because everything that's happening right now is just an eruption. It's like an earthquake, the surface solidity that's kind of solidified has to break open for what's inside to be free, and it's, I'm not even following it in detail, everything that's happening, because I don't want to get sucked into people's opinions, but just keeping an overview, it feels magnificent. It just really feels like the light is flooding everywhere. It's just there, so you can just lie on it. It's like the sea. You can just lie on it and float, it's just beautiful. So I'm choosing that reality. I'm choosing that, that perspective, that truth. And it just feels so much lighter. It just feels, I don't want to get bogged down in all the heavy stuff, because it feels like things have shifted there as well. In that for a while I was kind of, posting things on social media and talking to people about things and all that kind of thing. And now it kind of feels like the time for that, for me anyway, is past, in that now it's like, well, people have chosen what they've chosen. And all I can do is just keep loving God and keep looking to the light and just keep feeling this joy bubbling through. And just, that's my role, in that at the moment, it just feels like it's just beautiful. So when people say things that are very completely different to what I believe, I'll just go, okay, fine. They'll come in to the vet clinic and have their little rants about the government and legislation and mask wearing and COVID and Trump and all of that stuff. I'll just be like, okay, your opinion has just washed over me like a very small wave that is now gone. It doesn't touch me. So, I mean, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but to me, that feels like truth. So that's where I'm at now. So it's just, I guess, choosing the reality of keeping my gaze upwards as opposed to looking down.
Yeah, like you were saying, in the moment, it's true for you in the moment. So, and you're open to whatever feels true. So maybe there is a time where you turn around and you start posting so much more on social media, because I think
it's like punching people in the face.
Maybe. But I think that's the point, is being open to whatever's true in each and every moment. And like you said earlier, being open to contradicting yourself every 5 seconds, if that's what is currently moving through you. Who am I to say that the contradictions that I'm putting out maybe every 5 seconds isn't helping somebody else to go through the exact same sort of thought patterns? Like, maybe there's a reason why this is expressing through me for others to witness as well, if it happens to be in a situation where people are witnessing these contradictions, right? I don't know. It's very interesting times, and just being with whatever is true. The other thing I wanted to say about that is, like you said, with trusting the light, because my focus keeps going on to the true reality of all being light. You look at physics and it even says that everything's space, everything's light, particles and waveforms, right? And I'm like, okay, well, my mind struggles with how to live like that. Well, what do I do then? Everything's light, right? So I just offer that up to the light source, God, and say, okay, I don't know what to do, but I'll trust that I'll know what to do if I need to do something. And in the situation currently, my mind could say, oh, things aren't going the way I thought they were going to go. I must do something. But if I actually feel into it, I don't feel like I need to do anything. So,
yeah, because it feels to me like we were talking about last week. I posted since then in the Wisdom Life School group that one of the things, as this cleanse is happening, the cleanse of the world and the cleanse of individuals and all our stuff is coming up. One of the things that came up over the Christmas holidays very strongly for me was that deeply buried in the unconscious was such a lack of love for myself, and therefore must be for others, because you can't love others truly without loving yourself. And there was almost a self-loathing there that I hadn't no idea was there, and as that's releasing, and I hope is purging out, it leaves so much space for love to flood in, and being in that energy of love. And I'm no expert, I know, but just the experience of the last few weeks for me of feeling more and more love is that as judgment goes, you can look at people who are believing completely different things to you and still love them and not judge them and not feel you need to correct them or feel moved to do something or behave in some way or say something, but there's no thought processes to it. So at the moment for me, it feels like I'm just kind of being very still, and as movement or action is prompted, it's just coming through. So I guess that's the reality of right now, not feeling that I need to post anything or say anything or do anything. It may well come through, but I feel that all of this, for me and for the world generally, is partly happening because of a lack of love, because people so easily speak of love, but it's love in very boxed in terms. So it's kind of very conditional love. It's, I love everybody as long as they do what I say, or I love everybody as long as they come over to my side and see that I'm right and tell me I'm doing the right thing, or whatever it might be. And I'm seeing so much of that happening at the moment with people on both sides, or not that there are sides, but of different opinions that believe they're so right about things, and they're all talking about it coming from love. but there's no love there. It's interesting to see, because burying underneath all of that, digging down to the foundation, it's kind of like, well, but if the love was there, there wouldn't be the friction of the antagonism or the kind of rigid holding on to that belief of X, Y, Z. And if somebody doesn't see it my way, they're wrong. You know, it's kind of taking it to a different level of truth and lies, in that truth is so clear, lies are so clear, but there's no sharp corners or edges to it, if that makes sense. Because, you know, as people are starting to doubt things, or if as they have their ideas of what they believe is true, and they're seeing that not happening the way that they think it is happening, they're, you know, either wavering or getting a bit emotional or getting aggressive or getting very sharp cornered about things. You know, there's a lot of posts going on at the moment, and a lot of trying to bolster each other up and all of that kind of thing. And like you said last week, Danielle, you know, either you believe it's true or you don't, you know, and if on any level there's not the belief there, that's where the lack of love lies, if that makes sense. That's just how it seems to me at the moment, you know, in that as you feel the love, it flows through all of that. So it's kind of, it just, I can't explain it properly, but just at the moment to me, it feels like it's like love is this really soft, light, movement filled energy, and all of these really sharp corners and harsh building blocks and, you know, concrete foundations are being cracked open by it. And people are holding on to these jagged edges, you know, and kind of still trying to poke each other with them. Whereas love just kind of melts it all and just, I don't know. I'll stop rambling now.
I was just thinking while you were speaking, what had helped me at one point with having my opinion and accepting people who had a very different opinion about what's currently going on was knowing people personally who have a different opinion. But the difficult part about that is the people who have a different opinion that I know on a more personal level is that they're not open at all to people on the other side who have a different opinion from them. I'll keep putting out, you know, things that I believe or things I think are interesting, and I'm not worried about it. And I think that's good. I think the more people who do that, and maybe it'll get people who are on the other side, or maybe there are some people who are on the other side who are curious about why people on the other side think what they do. So maybe that's like an opening for them. Hey, I know this person and they think this, you know, I don't know. It's just an idea of bringing more love between the two sides instead of what most people are doing is just completely trying to cut everyone who has a different opinion from them out of their life, which I don't know. You're going to end up with no one because no one's going to align with you word for word exactly with what you feel.
Yeah, it's the way it's done. So if people have their opinions about things, that's absolutely fine. But it's when people use those opinions as weapons and they try to either throw this force of you are wrong or you're ignorant or you're stupid for not believing as I do, that's when it starts turning into a war zone, you know. So if I'm having a conversation with somebody who is full of fear and they're wearing a mask and they believe what they believe about various things, I'll have so much more compassion for them if they're not trying to attack me with their opinions. Let's say if somebody's fearful and wearing a mask and, you know, I step too close to them and they step back because they're scared. Okay, that's one thing. But if somebody aggressively comes up to me in a shop and tries to attack me because I'm not wearing a mask, that's another thing. So, you know, with this woman in the supermarket the other day, I was, you know, my approach felt true to be softly with her. Whereas in another situation with another person, it might have been to have an argument or get aggro with her. But it's feeling into the truth in every moment with that. You know, it's like some people are going around almost wanting to pick fights. So their default is if somebody comes up to them and says, why aren't you wearing a mask, is to attack, for example, you know, and that to me is very rigid. So it's not, again, it's that difference between the fluidity and malleability of feeling into what's true for you in every moment and having an opinion or a belief that you hold like a shield or you hold like a sword. It doesn't feel truthful and it doesn't feel loving. That's the compression. when there's one reaction to everything, because every situation is different, every interaction is different, every person's different, energy-wise, so you need to respond to that person, as opposed to walk around going, right, I've got my cudgel, I'm going to hit everyone on the head who's looking at me funny or whatever it is. So there's a big difference between that for me. And like you say, if it's truth for you to share things on social media, that's great, because I certainly can relate to that. I did for a while, and it just doesn't feel true right now, but it may well do tomorrow, or even in 2 minutes when I get off this call. Who knows? It is the choosing of what is truth. And for us, having studied with the Ratima, for us, truth and love are really what it's about, and we're blessed with the Ratima and Jason to know what they really are, what truth and love really are, as opposed to these fake versions, these counterfeit versions that are kind of being bandied about a lot. And that just feels really icky to me when people are talking about truth and love and coming from that place of truth and love when they're clearly not. They're using them as weapons. And I it just feels kind of sticky and dense and very contracted to me.
It's fear in the guise of love. So it's like people think they're being loving by what they're doing, but if they really paid attention, it's coming from a place of fear.
Yeah.
So I sent an email at some point to our mayor about, feeling discriminated for not wearing a mask, and he actually came back to me. And the response was extremely polite. He basically said that he felt disappointed and sorry that people were discriminating against not wearing a mask, and it was not acceptable to be judgmental in any way. And then he said that this bylaw is and for educational purposes. There's no reinforcement that are taking place. So he's also saying that council doesn't have authorities to actually manage the business inside their own premises. So he just advised me to go and meet with the manager and talk to them and explain the situation. And he also said that in our bylaw, the message was clear that people should be treated and should not be refused the service if they can't wear a mask. So that was kind of very nice to hear. And he said, I'm looking forward for this mask bylaw to be removed.
Well, that's great. Wow.
So that was very nice to hear. It was not to divide, not to stand up with one point of view or another. So yeah, it was very nice to hear this kind of message. Then I read another document about readiness for the COVID. And it says that the end date is 2025. I was like, no, I'm not choosing to believe this. I'm choosing the life. I'm choosing that it's done and over.
Yeah, choosing a different reality, definitely. Yeah.
Well, like I said, I keep forgetting about it. Like most of the time when I go out, I'm like, oh man, I got to remember to bring something with me because I have to cover my face when I go to the store. But I've honestly been forgetting about it. So that is my reality, is that it's over.
Yeah. No, it was mine last year when I was working from home, but now being out, having to go out every day, to work, you're reminded. I mean, it doesn't feel true to me, but you're reminded by the people that are masked and fearful and huddling away.
But it's kind of like you have to play along just until everybody else realizes that it's over,
But as Kim said, I also feel the fear. So I walk and then I feel people's fear. So this is when I get reminders like, oh, okay. They don't want to be too close to me. Okay, they're fearful. They want to go around. Okay, fair enough.
It is so strange, though. And I kind of find it stranger and stranger every day as people are adjusting to it as being normal. It is so bonkers. I saw somebody the other day that put a mask on their dog.
Oh, really?
Oh, my God.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's ridiculous.
They had a baby in a buggy with the baby with a mask on and the dog on a lead with a mask on. I just thought, oh my God, no, please.
You know what I saw the other day? I saw the guy obviously wearing a mask and I think the shield over top of it. And then he had a sanitizer. He was walking outside and then he was spraying in front of him.
Oh my God.
I think the kids were there and then I can see him going and spraying. I was like, oh
no. Wow. Nothing like walking into sanitizer clouds.
Oh, exactly.
Tell me about it. And
so no one cares about the ozone layer anymore? Like, just out the window.
Oh, God. No. Nope, not my reality. Absolutely not.
No.
I would rather, who needs the fresh air when I can inhale some toxic
exactly.
fumes?
Burn those lungs out. Yeah.
Right? Well, then they won't get infected with COVID.
Exactly.
So.
There'll be nothing there.
I choose not to choose my own reality sometimes because I don't want to get too attached to things. So I like project this awesome future like out into the future and then get attached to it. So I've more been choosing not to project a specific future, more leave it up to source or more of a feeling like what I want. If I do go there, I try to feel what I want the future to feel like rather than dialing in the specifics.
Yeah, and I guess it's choosing expansion over contraction or light over dark, rather than in more general terms, rather than specific. I've never really done that. I've never been very good at choosing or specifying a certain reality. The way some people can create this really intricate picture of what they want down to the color of shoes they're wearing, kind of thing. I've never really done that.
Good for you, because I'm very good with details. I can specifically imagine everything, how I want it to be and where and what time and how. And as Danielle said, I can be a little bit too attached to that. So I was like, okay, how about you just step back and enjoy what you have and just be here and just think that whatever you have is already beautiful and you don't need to change it. And if it comes, great. If it doesn't, wonderful.
Yeah.
Right. I don't feel like there's an issue with having a particular desire for the future as long as you're not attached to it, because then I think suffering steps in, right? And you start to see the contrast between where you want to be and what you have now, and it's like, oh, I'm not there yet. All that sort of junk starts flying around. It's like, no one's having fun now.
I have an idea what I want to wear. Well, not necessarily where I want to be, but some ideas of what I want. But as you said, I don't want to constantly imagine or constantly look for something or constantly. I still want it, so it's still there and I'm aware of it, but I'm not trying to come back to it all the time because otherwise I'm suffering, right? Otherwise I really want it and I want it to happen now. And I want to be with it right now. Give it to me.
And as things are changing so much as well, the future's opening up in ways that we might not even know or could imagine existed. It's all the possibilities that some people have spoken about and other people have mentioned, but all the inventions, I can't remember, was it Aratima I was talking about? Flying cars and different financial system and everyone having money, things being balanced, all this kind of thing that we've never seen in our lifetimes. So we have no concept or idea of what that would be like. It feels so interesting. I mean, what's coming? I mean, the energy of it just feels amazing. It feels really kind of full of possibility and very, very different colors and different consistency somehow. To me, it just feels very exciting. It's kind of almost pulsating with, pregnant with possibility and potential. So for me at the moment, there's no point even thinking of the future because I've no idea what it's going to be like. It's going to be, if I'm going to be in flying cars in 20 years' time, then I don't know what that's going to be like, so it'll be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, that's exciting. And sometimes when you have an idea of what you want to have and it actually comes out differently and in a way it's much better, it's like, oh, I never thought of that. It's actually more exciting.
Yeah. Well, thank God that desire I had didn't happen because it would have been a nightmare.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. My dad used to say when I was younger, this or something better, which I always find to be really helpful, especially when I get really attached to something. It's like, oh, I really want this. And then it's like, if I could take a breath and say, all right, so I feel like I really want this, but just offer it up and say, okay, if this is what I'm supposed to have, then give it to me. If not, this or something better. And that's kind of like something that he taught us when we were young.
That's nice.
Yeah, because then it lets you let go of that specific desire for whatever it is. And then you can just trust whatever it is going to be either that or something better. And if you think that's the best, then if you end up with something better, how are you going to be disappointed?
Do you specify something better from my highest good perspective or something better from, because it could always be your dad going, right, something better from the parental perspective, it could be.
I don't think he really ever, most of the time, did parental perspective on things. He's always been a very conscious person.
Well, that was our conversation about choosing your reality. And thanks for listening to us. Please subscribe please like us and hit that bell button so you can get notified for the next podcast. And see you next time. Bye.